Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Digging Deeper, Making Creativity Your Business Advantage. The artist formerly known as The Jason Falls Show. That makes me your host, Jason Falls. Hi, everybody. How are we doing today? Welcome to the show. This is probably going to be the last show that has all of the Jason Falls Show branding because I told you a couple weeks ago, we're trying to make that transition over and make it Digging Deeper, Making Creativity Your Business Advantage. We'll be updating the logos and the official name and branding and all that stuff over the coming weeks and transition everybody over to the new dig. So don't panic if you're still seeing the old branding. The new stuff is coming, and we'll have some instructions for all of you next week on making sure you have your subscription updated. And I'll go into a little bit more detail about if you ever have to move a podcast from like one show name or what to the other. I'll go through the steps that I've gone through so that you can sort of see and understand that. Today on the program, Robert Courtney Collins is here. He's one of the co-founders of UNEEK Collection, a clothing line with a great purpose. He's also the leader of a branding and marketing consultancy in Detroit called Robert Courtney and Associates. He's been popping up an awful lot on my feed because we're connected on Facebook recently. And he's hosting a series of live stream interviews, much like the ones we'll have with him this morning called Keep Going, Candid Conversations with Robert Courtney. So good stuff. Guy's got a lot of ideas, a lot of energy, fireball of positivity. So I wanted to get some ideas and inspiration for you from him today. Then I want to talk to you a bit about intellectual property and photo licensing. The topic has come up recently with a couple of client conversations, and there's some pretty useful websites out there for photography I want to make sure you know about. Nothing crazy new, just I want to make sure you're using good resources, and there's one that I use for a specific purpose that I'll talk about a little bit later on. And finally, a little book update. I finished the appendices or appendices. I'm sure someone out there will tell me what the right word is this weekend. So I want to tell you what they are and even give you a little sneak peek of sorts. I can't give you a lot because my editor will get mad at me, but I'm excited to roll out another piece of work for the book, the manuscript of which is due on Monday. I got 6 more days to tighten up this thing and get it off to the publisher, and we're getting there. I'm pretty happy with where it is, and by the end of the week, I'm sure it'll be tight and ready to go. But first, has there ever been a more appropriate time to figure out your live streaming or web video opportunities? I mean, we're all working from home. We've got Zoom calls and GoToMeetings and Slacks and Skypes and Microsoft Teams. Then we also market to the public. So we have to find ways to get in front of consumers while we're all, tied up at home. I realized that this weekend in a lot of places, some things started to inch back open, but we don't know how long we're not going to probably get back to real normal. We're going to get back to a different normal. I know people are getting tired of hearing new normal, but we're going to be needing to capitalize on this video content. And a lot of companies, a lot of brands, including maybe your competitors, are capitalizing on that opportunity during this time. So you want to look professional when you live stream. You want to look professional when you're doing videos, event productions and whatnot that you want to put online. It's very important to your brand. So I recommend that you use what we use here on the Digging Deeper show for live streaming and video production software. We use Switcher Studio. All you need to know is that the software is used on iOS devices. You need the software. You need iOS devices on the same Wi-Fi network. You don't need a TV truck. You don't need expensive production studios. No real editing either. You can manage running your show like a TV producer and do it all from your iPad or iPhone. I'll show you a little bit of it right now. So I'm doing the show this morning on the big iPad here. And if you look real close right there, you can see Robert waiting in the green room. So there he's waving. And then this AB stuff, that's when we do the split screen. So if I hit that and then me and then him, then he's on camera there. So we can say, hey, Robert, there's the Robert. And we'll get to him in a minute. So I got to do this first. And then I hit solo and then I go back to me, right? And so I can throw up fun, cool stuff like my name, Jason Falls Cornet there at the bottom. And it makes it just look all professional and cool. And literally on an iPad with my finger, I'm directing the show while I'm doing the show. That takes a little bit of, crazy person in the brain. So I don't recommend doing that. If you have help, get help. But I'm not normal, as you know. But anyway, so I can hit a button here and throw this up because if you go to switcherstudio.com/falls and use that special URL, you can start a 2-week free trial. After the trial, you can use the code FALLS and get 10% off your subscription for as long as you have it. As long as you don't cancel, 10% off forever. That's a pretty damn good deal. So go to switcherstudio.com/falls, use the special code falls, get that 10% off, sign up. You can try it for free for 2 weeks. So, no obligation or anything right out of the gate. Switcher Studio makes our live recordings of this very podcast look professional. Now let them do the same for your live streaming. switcherstudio.com/falls. How about that? If you are dialing into the live broadcast on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, you can jump into the comments section there and ask questions and interact with us on the show. I see a couple of other folks are jumping in already. Daniel Waters says, here in Alabama, we decided to throw the doors wide open this weekend. Well, knock on wood. Good luck with that. I hope that doesn't cause another big outbreak. But Daniel's down there in Birmingham. We know each other from our time at UAB together, cheering on the Blazers back in the day. So Daniel, thanks for chiming in here on the show. If you are watching on the live stream today, do jump into the chat section and say hello. Because we're broadcasting on multiple platforms, I have one place where I can see everything, but it shows me actual comments. It doesn't show me, hey, here's all these people watching. So I don't see you if you don't say hello. So say hello, jump in the comments and say hello. And then later on, when I have links to share to you of things we're talking about on the show, I'll jump in there and post those as well. So where was I in the things that I'm supposed to do today? I'm in the middle of it. So yeah, if you're watching or listening to the show after the fact and would like to join us in the future, just follow me or Cornette on LinkedIn, or you can follow me on Facebook and YouTube, and you'll get that handy notification when we go live. We typically go live 8 a.m. Eastern time, 5 a.m. Pacific time on Tuesday mornings. Look for me online at Jason Falls. I'm pretty much Jason Falls everywhere. There's a politician in North Carolina who doesn't like me because I pretty much own the name online. But that's okay. He's a Republican. I'm good. And you can typically find Cornette on the internet at Team Cornette. So find us there on the LinkedIn's, find me on the LinkedIn's, and you can follow us, connect with us. We are going to be broadcasting starting next week on the Cornette LinkedIn channel, provided I can get the approval between now and then. There's you got to jump through a hoop, and I got to figure out if I can fit through a hoop, which normally the answer is no. All right. So Robert Courtney is here today, ladies and gentlemen, and he's one of those smart guys I've run into over the years and have been connected with for a long time. He leads a marketing and branding consultancy in Detroit called Robert Courtney and Associates, but is also the CEO and co-founder of the UNEEK Collection. And that is a fashion and clothing line that started with two men wanting to change the racial perception of young Black men in society. That evolved into educating people about diversity. UNEEK is an acronym. It stands for Unifying Nationalities by Encouraging Education and Knowledge. They've grown from an idea to a brand sold internationally. And they have a group of brand ambassadors, including some celebrities in there, spreading the word and watching it grow from its meager beginnings. And watching that for the last 10 years has been amazing. So good morning, Robert. Welcome to the show, man.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you on. All right. So give us a little background on UNEEK. I know Kirk McClung is your co-founder. How did you guys meet and how did this idea take shape?
So Kirk and I actually met on the basketball court. Funny story. We hated each other, as competitors. Like we tended to get into it quite often on the court, and it's strange how those battles and that competition created like this mutual respect. And that was now over 20 years ago. And it led into a relationship. And I came up with this idea to launch this brand based on a concept of a barbershop. So my first business endeavor was a barbershop called UNEEK Barbershop. And in that barbershop grounds, you enter into so many different conversations with so many different people. And it was where I really started to understand that conversation. The conversation in the barbershop was basically the conversation that shaped lives. And young men went on to basically begin their journey based on what they would hear and the advice that they would get inside the barbershop. So I just started to think, like, what more can we do with this idea and this concept where we can use it as a vehicle to spread this positive message?
So I obviously love the message for sure. So let me dig a little deeper here, because obviously I can't come close to seeing the world through the eyes of a young black man. And the original purpose of UNEEK to change the racial perception of young black men in society. What was it that you saw? And I think more importantly, where did you see it that you wanted to change?
You know what? I think it's for me. It started really, really early. So as a young person, my family had a very diverse group of friends and associates. And so for me personally, I saw diversity all the time. But what I would notice was my conversations with peers and other people, the conversation was a lot different. And I didn't really understand as a young person, but then as I got older and I would have these conversations in the barbershop, it was really from a lack of education and a lack of exposure. Like you just didn't get to have dialogue with somebody of another race. And so my thing was, how can I create this experience and bridge this gap among individuals who don't get the opportunity to have those kind of conversations? If I can understand a little bit about why people do the things that they do, maybe it would open up their minds and their perspectives to why they do it, So that was kind of like, I think for me, it was just not understanding why I didn't see it more as a young person.
I love it. And I get friends of mine will tell me, I had a friend of mine tell me not too recently that he thinks that I try too hard to bring the race conversation into conversation. Yeah. And obviously from a white guy perspective, it's a little awkward for some people for me to bring it up. But I've always thought that it's important to bring up the conversation because it's the only way we're going to get to a point where there's a mutual understanding is to continue to have the conversation, even if it's brought up by the awkward white guy in the room.
100%.
For me, it's all about intent. And I love the fact that you have found an avenue to talk about these things in a way that's not like alarming to people.
Yeah.
Obviously, if it was coming from me, it would be, but it's coming from someone who knows the experience. It's not.
Well, I think it's definitely an uncomfortable conversation, regardless of your color or race. But in 2007, 2008, when we launched the brand, it was not only uncomfortable, but it wasn't really cool. Like to do a fashion brand based around race and positivity, it was kind of like, what exactly are you trying to accomplish here? And so we had to be very strategic about how we put that message out. And the reason the clothing line played was because as young African Americans planning this kind of pop culture time period, it was like we had to come up with some interesting ideas so that we can kind of sprinkle that message in there and make it okay and not as uncomfortable for people to talk about it.
Sure. Well, I'm sure that is accomplishing its goal, but more importantly, I think for the business and the brand, well, not more importantly, but as importantly, how's business? Give us a sense of how the brand's doing. Where's it sold? What kind of footprint does it have?
Yeah. So the brand has strangely gained a lot of traction just over the last couple years. We started off with no knowledge of the fashion industry. Went in completely from scratch, started everything from scratch, from sampling different shirts and fabrics and things like that, to actually implementing and putting the brand inside of retailers and selling it online. And so it's been what we would call a roller coaster over the last 10 years. And now, after several great deals, several disasters, we've kind of found our niche online, and we've also found our niche doing licensing partnerships. Like one of our recent ventures was with a brand called Motown Magic, which has went extremely well. That's a show shown on Netflix based around the Motown culture and all the great things that Motown did. And they ended up partnering with us to create the official clothing for that particular cartoon, which was an awesome situation. And now we're getting ready. I can't say officially who it is, but we have a large partnership probably happening tomorrow or Thursday that I'm looking forward to announce. So if you are a follower of UNEEK Collection, please stay tuned because that's going to be probably our biggest deal to date.
That's great. I saw you hint around about that the other day. I was going to ask about it. So
Yeah, yeah.
I know you can't leak it out there yet.
I don't like to do it until the ink is on the paper. So,
You're a smart man for doing it that way, because it'll definitely come back to biting the butt if you don't.
100%.
So obviously that's exciting for you. But let's switch gears a little bit here and talk about the marketing first of UNEEK, but then more broadly what your other business is doing to help clients. I know you've said before that in order to successfully communicate those great messages behind UNEEK, that you had to build a platform with which to do it. So give us a sense of all the components of that marketing mix for UNEEK, for the brand. How do you get the word out there, and who is it you're really trying to reach?
Yeah, I mean, you articulated that well. Our claim to fame, I guess you can say, with the UNEEK brand was social media. And so we had $0 and we had to figure out a way that we could get that message out and not have to spend a lot of money. And so we really latched on to social. We actually tell this story all the time, how we built presence in every city that we wanted to be in using Facebook pages, when you could literally invite thousands and thousands of people to events. And so we would market these huge fashion events in different cities and then create presence in those cities like we actually lived there. And that's when we realized the power of social media. And as the brand began to become a little more popular and people begin to gravitate toward it, and we seen this model worked, it was like, we have to figure out ways to show other people how they can leverage the same way we did. So that was really what created the agency. It didn't start off as an agency. It really started off more or less of us showing people what we did so that they can do it. And after it began to take up so much time, it was like, okay, we have to organize this thing and add some type of revenue stream to it, because it's distracting us from what our ultimate goal is, which was building the UNEEK brand. So at that point, my partner, Kirk, he kind of took hold of the UNEEK Collection brand, and he maintains it, runs it. I help when I can. And then I've been building the marketing agency, and we really market to clients who has done traditional media like billboards, TV, radio, commercials, and they're trying to transition into the social media world, which surprisingly is a lot of people that still don't really use it as much as they should. So that's really probably been our main focus, our main audience, those clients that just want to understand how to do what they've been doing successfully on social media platforms.
So whether it's for UNEEK or whether it's for, I know you've got a car dealership or two and some other, types of businesses that you work with Robert Courtney and Associates. So with any of your clients, including UNEEK, what's probably the most creative thing you think you've done with one of those brands to date? Some sort of maybe outside the box idea or fringe idea that you capitalized on to make a big splash, big difference?
I don't know if I've ever gotten asked that question. We do so many outside of like literally our company was built on outside of the box. I think when people choose to work with us, they work with us because we're not going to approach it with any type of cookie cutter approach. And I'll probably like just most recently with COVID-19 and all the things that's happening, we started running live broadcasts inside the car dealerships as a way to get introduced to the salesmen. It's like social media for car dealerships, social media for real estate agencies, social media for insurance companies is really, really new. And it's really for them progressive and something that they haven't really become accustomed to. And so to get them to broadcast virtually in real time with car dealer salesmen who've never been on the internet before, I won't say it's the craziest thing, but for them, it's definitely outside of the box. And it's really just being proactive to utilize the tools that we do have instead of kind of waiting for people to walk through the door.
I've found, I don't know if this is true for you, and I know that if it is, you're helping your clients work through it. But I've found the more traditional businesses, local businesses like car dealers and insurance agents, real estate agents, et cetera, normally when they go on social media without some sort of guidance and help, it's just like it's spam city. It's just click my stuff, buy my crap, download this. And there's really not a lot of, it's a one-way street for them.
Yeah.
Are you still seeing that? And what are some of the things you tell people to say, hey, you can't do it that way?
Absolutely. I mean, you think about who my audience is. So most of them come from that mindset of, whatever the product is, we need to sell it and I need to see a return on my investment. Like that's really the culture of all of your businesses that built success on different models. That's where we come from, seeing TV commercials and radio advertisements, and there was never a two-way street in those type of media. So we try to, I guess, educate them and change their thought process to understand what social media is. And essentially it's a referral network. It's a community and a word of mouth approach being done online and being done digitally. So when we can get them to understand that thought process, usually it's an easier transition for them to coming over and allowing us to build brand as opposed to constantly trying to sell things down people's throats.
So I know that you're based in Detroit, and I think a lot of your clients for that particular consultancy are in Detroit. Mm-hmm. I remember the first time I went to Detroit, I was a kid. I went up there for something family oriented. It was in the late 80s. But then when I went back on the whole social media book thing, 10 years or so ago, I felt like Detroit was still shell shocked from, sort of the bailouts and the recession and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. But it had this sort of, you could tell there was this palpable sense of we're going to get ourselves out of this.
Yeah.
I know you've been involved in a lot of what's been happening there. How's the city doing? What's hot in the Motor City these days?
The city is doing phenomenal. I mean, especially pre-COVID, it was thriving. A lot of tech companies come into Detroit because there's a huge emergence in the tech space for a lot of venture capitalists and people wanting to invest money into those type of offerings. And we were seeing just the energy, like the energy from what you've seen compared to now. I'm sure it would be completely different. And I think it's become an attraction. Great energy attract people. It makes them want to do things and be a part of that. And so you have this generation of young professionals coming through now who, they don't even know the Detroit that you speak of. And they're basically just, in real time changing things as we speak. So it's definitely a cool place to be. And, I don't see it really changing and going back to what it was here in the future.
Yeah. On a similar note, from a community note, let's talk a little bit about, how you and your family and your friends in Detroit are doing with this whole COVID thing. And then I know you've talked a lot on some of your conversations about how people should be dealing with COVID from a business or brand perspective. So give us a little update on how you guys are doing. And then what are you telling your clients?
Yeah, for sure. So I look at that from two different perspectives. One, from a personal perspective, I think you need to be self-aware. I think it's really important to analyze, if you're like me and you've been going 1,000 miles an hour, for 10, 15, 20 years straight, trying to make things happen, build brand, do all these different things and make your business successful. Maybe this is a time to allow things to slow down and allow your mind to process what's happening, maybe spend time with family and have dinner and lunch and breakfast and do things that you wouldn't have been able to normally do because you were in demand and someone needed your time. And so if that's the case, I think that's perfectly fine. And I think this has probably been an incredible small window that we'll never get back again. And then on the flip side, if you've been procrastinating and you've been trying to kind of find your way and feeling overwhelmed and, in a rut of sorts, I think if you didn't take advantage of this window, it could have been probably the best window for a person that was trying to organize and structure and build framework and create content. So those are my two perspectives. As far as clients go, for us, it was we have to keep content and we have to keep information in front of people to keep you relevant and to keep your brand in at the top of people's mind. And so we've done that virtually. We've done that creatively. And I think when it's all said and done, the brands that figure out a way to continue put content out there, they'll be the brands that people will remember when they think about this weird time that we went through.
Yeah, it's been an interesting couple of months, and hopefully we're starting to come out of it. But there's always that chance that we go back too soon. We're going to go back into it. So the advice actually might be, relevant here in the next, few months, as you say, well, we're still not going back. So, hey, let's get out of that procrastination thing and shift into creating some stuff. All right. So I want to go back. You mentioned this earlier, and I think this is an awesome sort of story and lesson for people. So I want to retouch on it. You've got a successful clothing line. You've got a successful marketing firm that's, pillar of the community and whatnot. But you started off as a barber.
Yeah.
So you're not, I wonder, you didn't follow the path that you sat out for. Yeah. So I'm wondering what kind of lesson that leaves out there for folks.
Yeah. Honestly, I never had an intention on becoming like a great barber. Like I just always I've been able to cut hair my entire life. I started cutting hair when I was 13, 14. I want to say my dad would cut me and my brother's hair as a young person. He might have learned in the Navy or Vietnam or something like that. But I just always knew how to do it. And as a high schooler, 14, 15 years old, I was making $600-700 cutting out of my mom's basement. Right. So that led into eventually being laid. I got laid off from a job, needed to generate some fast cash, and I decided to go to barber school in 2004. And the first place that I found that would let me cut hair, I went in. So that place happened to be named UNEEK Barbershop. And the lady that owned the shop was on her way out. She was tired. She had been doing it for a long time. And then a business opportunity presented itself. And I didn't know it, but I've been an entrepreneur my entire life.
Sure.
I didn't even know what being an entrepreneur was. But this desire to own and run and operate my own situation presented itself. And, I took advantage of it. I didn't even hesitate. It was, let's make this work. So that was kind of like I knew it was the door that would open up the world of business ownership. And at my first opportunity to expand that, I did. And that's kind of where the UNEEK Collection lifestyle brand came from.
So the name UNEEK came from her.
Correct.
Did it already have the acronym, or did you adjust that?
I'm very careful with that because I did not create the name UNEEK. I did not come up with the spelling, but we apply the meaning behind it because for her, it was just, she wanted to spell unique different. Like she wanted it to stand out.
She wanted to be unique.
Yeah, we wanted to elaborate. Yeah, exactly. For us, we wanted to elaborate on that idea, and it just literally driving down the highway one day, it hit me like a ton of bricks, and we've been riding that wave ever since.
That's great. It's just that's a fun fact about the businesses. Well, we came up with the acronym and the meaning. We put the brand behind the name, but the name was actually somebody else's. That's cool. So, Robert, I love your content, man. I enjoy seeing and hearing what you have to say on stuff and constantly cheering on your success. I love how invested you are in your community and how invested you are in other people's success too. So thank you for that. And thanks for what you do. And thanks for sharing a little knowledge with us today. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
Probably my most popular platform is Instagram. I'm on Instagram at Robert Courtney Collins. We've been pouring a ton of content, like you mentioned, into these virtual podcasts, if you will. And so you can find that at robertcourtneyxpodcast.com. And then anything about my marketing company, robertcourtneyandAssociates.com. And the clothing brand is actually wearuneek.com. And like I said, we have a huge announcement coming with that. So look forward to putting that information out there.
So it's Wear Unique. I think I may have misspelled. I think I put
WEAR. UNEEK.com. But if you go to UNEEKcollection.com, it'll just take you over to where UNEEK.com. So,
all right, I think I just jumbled up the letters and put we are unique.
We are unique. A lot of people, yeah, and I mean that would actually be a cool name to grab. Speaking of domains,
that would be. Let me go. I want to correct that real quick. HTTP. Boom. We wear unique. WEAR. Yeah, screwed that up the first time. Now I fixed it. There we go.
No worries.
Robert, thank you so much for taking some time with us today, man. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate you, and I've been watching all the awesome things that you do. Like I told you earlier, jealous of the LinkedIn connection, but I hope to join you there real soon. But keep putting in the great work and enjoy these podcasts a ton.
Yeah, man. Stay safe up there. We appreciate you, man.
All right, take care. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
That's Robert Courtney Collins. You can also find him at Robert UNEEK Courtney online if you're searching. But I dropped all those links over there in the show notes or the chat sessions on Facebook and YouTube. For those of you who typically watch on LinkedIn, I apologize. Apparently, an error happened with the LinkedIn connection this morning. You know, every 30 days or so, LinkedIn makes you reconnect. It's probably that, and I probably didn't double check that this morning. But so we did not broadcast live on LinkedIn, to my knowledge. But we were on YouTube, or we are on YouTube and on Facebook. So we'll fix that little error and make sure there are appropriate links to the recording of the show over on LinkedIn. For those folks, I jumped over and posted a little message on LinkedIn. So some of you guys may have come over to one of the other networks to watch the show. So apologize for that today. But, you know, we're multiple streaming everywhere, all over the place. Something's bound to break at some point. So that broke today. But we'll make sure that we try to pay closer attention to that in the future. Make sure it doesn't. Okay. Really appreciate Robert coming by and talking to us. Obviously, you can find the links to the UNEEK Collection and all of his places online. You should go check him out. The dude is just really invested in his community and really invested in making other people successful. And I love hearing what he has to say. So I thought you guys would appreciate this morning. All right, let's talk a little bit about intellectual property. So obviously, if you're producing content out there, it's better these days to put imagery, photography with it, whether it's on Instagram or Facebook or even Twitter, which allows you to do that too. Anything visual is going to stop people in that stream and make them stop and look. It makes them pay a little bit closer attention, and it might be the hook to get them in to see your content on the social web. You obviously also want to make sure that you've got good imagery on your website, good imagery on your email newsletters and things like that. And then, of course, if you do printed collateral, you need good photography for that too. There are a lot of people out there who subscribe to stock photography sites and whatnot. There are some people who don't know any better and or do know better and circumvent the rules anyway, and they'll go to a Google search and just pull down an image that they find. What we all need to remember as marketers, whether we're working on our own brands or we're working, on our companies or someone else's brand, a brand somebody else's own, like if you work for someone, you're working on their brand. What we need to remember is that the owner of that image, the photographer, that image really belongs to them. And they need to give you permission to use that image. The whole intellectual property argument or intellectual property topic is something you need to really pay attention to. Now, the risk is if you use a photograph that you should pull down off a Google search and it's copyrighted, it's owned by someone else, and you use it and they find out later, they could, sue you for, restitution or violating their copyright. And you could be financially liable for some degree of money for that, for making that mistake. And you don't want to risk that for your brand. Obviously, you certainly don't want to risk that for a personal brand where, this is coming out of your bank account, not necessarily the company's marketing budget, but if it's something you're doing for your own personal thing and you get caught with it, well, that could be really financially devastating. Now, the chances are that one individual person using one photograph in one instance is going to get caught doing it. Probably not very high, but you also ethically probably just don't want to do that anyway, right? You don't want to violate somebody else's rights. You don't want to take something from someone. That's stealing, The good news is that there are a lot of companies out there that know and understand that. There are a lot of content creators, photographers, videographers, sound effects people out there who understand that. And there are more and more tools coming to fruition for the small business or individual, personal brand type person that are creating content in free licensed materials. Keep in mind, if you use a stock photography site, like iStock Images or stockphotography.com or whatever, it'll say the advertisements there are, free photographs, free images, right? But when you get into each individual image, you need to check and make sure that it's free, because they're not all free. And it might be free for you to browse. It might be free for you to use for non-commercial purposes. But if you're trying to use it for a business, that's a commercial purpose. So there's a fee associated with that. So you got to be really careful to know what you're dealing with, where you're getting your images. Do you have permission to use the image? And for what do you have permission to use the image? Because if it's, you can't use this for commercial reasons, then as a business, you can't. If you're trying to use it to promote your business or make money, even if it's just, I'm going to throw this up on Instagram and share it. Well, if it's a business Instagram account and you're trying to derivate business from it, you're violating that copyright. Fortunately, there are some websites out there that you can go to solve that problem. One that I have found recently, which is not new necessarily, I'm kind of late to the game on it, but I've started using it a lot more, is Unsplash. So if you go to, I think it's unsplash.com, and let me make sure, I should have probably done that homework before though. Yeah, it's unsplash.com. But Unsplash is the internet source for freely usable images. And so their intellectual property statement on their website is all photos published on Unsplash can be used for free. You can use them for commercial and non-commercial purposes. You do not need to ask permission from or provide credit to the photographer or Unsplash, although it is appreciated when possible. So, and they go even further to say that Unsplash grants you irrevocable, non-exclusive worldwide copyright to license, download, copy, modify, distribute, perform, or use these photos for free, including for commercial purposes. So Unsplash is a great photographic resource. For those of you who know of great video or audio resources, jump in and pop those links in the comments. We would love to see those. I don't know of any off the top of my head, but I wanted to share Unsplash with all of you so that you knew that was there. Some of you may know or may have seen on LinkedIn probably recently, I've been posting a lot of the Marketing Zen content. And for the Marketing Zen, which is mine, it's kind of a name, a new brand that I've put around the opportunity for me to coach, do some marketing coaching with some people. And I do that from this sort of attitude and position of mindfulness meditation and, having a very present, calm approach to things. And that appeals to some people. I don't do a lot of it because I have a full-time job with Cortney and I don't have a whole lot of hours to give, but occasionally I'll have, a person or two call and say, I really need to, take an hour of your time, have you walk me through a problem, help me, figure out how to, tackle this particular solution, mostly for small businesses. But I, probably one or two people a month do that with me. And so I've got a little brand around it called the Marketing Zen. What I do with that from a social perspective on Twitter and on Instagram at the Marketing Zen is I find an image that goes along with kind of a meditation every day. And so let me jump over real quick and I'll give you an example of that. I don't remember any of them off the top. Actually, let me grab my phone real quick. It's easier to do it on my phone because I can just bring it up. Because I keep all that stuff in my photos. So it's easy for me to just hit a button and they come up. So as an example, I'll give you, this is a really good example because on Friday, I think it was, sort of, I had watched all of the Last Dance, the Chicago Bulls documentary on the ESPN stuff. And so I wanted to use the Mark Vansel quote from that as the meditation of the day. And the meditation of the day is the thing that I post on social media for the Marketing Zen. And his quote, Mark Vansel, who wrote the Jordan Rules, said about Michael Jordan, his gift was not that he could jump high, run fast, shoot a basketball. His gift was that he was completely present. And that was the separator, which I believe is from episode 10 of that particular documentary. And that art of being present, of not letting the past distract you, of not being concerned or anxious about the future, but being completely present is what Mark is talking about there about Michael Jordan. So I went on Unsplash, I typed in Michael Jordan, and I found a photograph that was made by a young person out there taking pictures of the sort of, wall of Jordan dunking sort of stop motion, almost photography up a wall that it's actually seen in the documentary a couple of times. But I found that and used that as the image in my marketing Zen post. And so I go through and say photo by this person on Unsplash because I want to give credit where credit is due, even though I'm not required to. So it's a great resource. Unsplash is a great resource for photography. I would encourage all of you to go check that out. Again, you probably should sign up for an account, but they don't wear you out with emails and stuff. You don't have to worry about any of that, and you get the opportunity to download some images that you can use for your business and not have to worry about the whole intellectual property thing because they give you permission. I would encourage you to give credit to the photographer and to Unsplash where you can, because that's cool and that's a fair way to do it. And that's a way they can benefit from it, because someone might see one of these images that I've posted on Instagram, click on Unsplash, go there and find another image from that person or whatever. So just a thought for you to help out with your photography creative needs if you are on a budget and want to make sure you don't have to worry about the IP stuff. Okay. Last thing I want to talk to you about today before we wind things down, a quick update from the book. The deadline to have everything to the publisher is Monday. I got 6 more days to pull this stuff together. I'm on pace. I've got time and space now the rest of this week to read through and do one more good read through and edit of the book. And then the manuscript is off. Probably not going to come out till early 2021. Publishing process still takes a long time in comparison to throwing up a blog post. But this weekend, I was able to pull together the appendices or appendixes, however you want to say that word. If you know how to say that word or what I should be saying, jump in and tell me in the comments there. I see Claudette Wellens says, wonderful interview. Thank you, Claudette. Appreciate you coming by today. Jump in, ask questions, say hello in the comments if you can. I'd love for you too. But at any rate, so this weekend, I just want to give you a quick little preview of what the appendices of the book are going to be. In addition to a book about influence marketing, which is the title of the book is Winfluence, the Reframing Influencer Marketing to Ignite Your Brand. That is the new title. We had to work with it there was conflict on the subtitle. So it's Winfluence, Reframing Influence Marketing to Ignite Your Brand. That's the title we're working with right now. Not 100% final, about 98% final. But it will also have this, what I selfishly will say is I think a pretty good book. I put a lot of research, a lot of effort, and some good writing into it. And I think it'll be good for you to want to have when you can eventually have it. I don't have anywhere for you to go right now. But you're also going to get a couple appendices in the book that are going to be helpful for you. One of which is the Winfluence Priority Scorecard. I'm going to show you this really quickly. I can't share too much of it because my editor will get mad at me. But this is my scribble from this weekend of working out this scorecard. And basically what it will have is, if it's intended for you to use with an individual influencer and go through reach, relevance, and resonance, which are kind of the 3, factors of what you want to achieve with an influencer. You want to, know what their reach is. You want to know how relevant they are to you and the audience that you're trying to reach. And then do they resonate with that audience? Well, I've broken that down into factors that you can score. Some of them are factors that you can measure online, like impressions, because that's obviously a big deal with reach. How many impressions are they going to drive? Impressions doesn't really matter necessarily for relevance, and it doesn't necessarily matter for resonance. So it's one factor of many that go into it. So you've got a little scorecard where you can, on a scale of 0 to 10, say, well, this influencer has a lot of impressions, so I'm going to put him at an 8 or a 9, or her at an 8 or a 9. And then you've got some of the factors in relevance. One of them is topic alignment. So does the topic that they typically talk about, the topic that they know, is it in line with what you are trying to talk about, what you do, the product or service you provide, or what the audience is interested in, right? And so you can score that, again, 0 to 10. Is their topic alignment with me and what I'm trying to accomplish a 6? Is it a 3? Is it a 9? So you can score that. And then under resonance, there's several factors, one of which is authority. So it may be that they're relevant, but they don't have a reputation. They don't have a lot of authority. It may be that they have a lot of reach and they're sort of kind of relevant, but their content really resonates with their audience because of how they do it, maybe. And so you can score that a little differently. Now you've got a scorecard for each individual influencer. You can put those on a spreadsheet when you've scored them all and prioritize who you reach out to, right? So that's one appendix for the upcoming book that I finished off this weekend. The other one is the Winfluence Success Scorecard. So here's a little look at that. I can't give it all away, because my editor will get mad at me. Eventually it'll be online. It'll be a PDF, but it's got to wait till the book comes out. So the Winfluence Success Scorecard is for your campaign, and it's broken up into the different major goals that you would have, like sales, conversions, traffic, awareness, etc. And then within each of those are the metrics that you want to track, to the KPIs, to show that you have what progress you have made. So it's an easy one page. Actually, if you have one goal and it's like conversions, let's say, it's just one little block on the page. It's one of these little squares over here, right? And so you have that, you fill that out, and you're able to say very quickly, well, here are the top 6, 8, 9 KPIs that we should probably be tracking for something like this. And there is a box where you can fill in your own. So it just gives you a scorecard. The Winfluence Success Scorecard will be the other appendix in the book. So finished off those this weekend. Everything's coming together really nicely. Again, I think if I do say so myself, my writing in this book is probably the best writing I've ever done. I've done a lot of research, talked to a lot of people, and I'm really excited about getting the book out there. Unfortunately, after I've done writing the first manuscript of it, it takes another 9 months to get it out, 6 months to get it out, something like that. So we have to wait a little while. There's rounds of editing to make sure that I'm not a complete fool. And that's a good thing. That's what the publishers are for. But eventually it will be out there and you'll be able to see it. And I'll be very excited to talk about it here and everywhere else. So just thought I'd give you that little update. Thank you guys for joining us today. Next week on the show, it's going to be a big day for us because we are going to have some fun making the big transition. Christy Heiler, the president at Cortney, and my boss will be our guest on Digging Deeper. We're going to dig deeper into how she is managing her team during the COVID crisis, what going back to work means for us and perhaps for you, why agencies have to be very different today than they were just a year or two ago, and lots more. Not going to be a big Cortney advertisement. We're going to really talk to Christy about how she runs her business and how agencies need to evolve in this day and age, COVID related, but also not COVID related. I work with this woman every day, and she is nothing short of amazing. Big strategic thinker, problem solver, great at engaging everyone and empowering her team. I love working for and with her, and I think you'll see why next week. The live stream of Digging Deeper airs at 8 a.m. Eastern, 5 a.m. Pacific time on Tuesday mornings. Just follow Courtney or me on LinkedIn or me on Facebook or YouTube to see the stream. The recordings, of course, will be there after if you miss it. You can also subscribe to the audio podcast version, which hits the feed a little later in the mornings on Tuesdays after the episode is done. Look for me. I'm at Jason Falls just about everywhere, or Cortney, which is typically at Team Cortney on the social channels so that you don't miss an episode. So Christy Heiler, the president at Cortney, next Tuesday at 8 a.m. Eastern time here on Digging Deeper. We'll probably have all of our new graphics and branding and stuff in place too. So be a fun day to kick things off with the new name of the show and all that good stuff. All right. It comes the time in the show when I have to pay attention to hitting buttons because we got to wrap things up here and you got to get to work today. So let's get you out of here, right? That'll do it for this edition of Digging Deeper, making creativity your business advantage. If you like the episode, share it with a friend or colleague who might as well. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the show, email me, jason@teamcortney.com. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, everyone, I'll see you on the interwebs.